All right, now on to current events. And Rich, your boy, Donald J. Trump, our
Boy,
president, scored a huge victory. Just ask him. He bombed a couple of three nuclear sites in the
that's not entirely true. He bombed one nuclear site, then he hit the other two with submarine missiles. So he missiled
okay.
the other two, but he bombed one. Yes, that's true.
And then a couple of days later, or maybe a day later, and this was in Iran, Israel and Iran come to a ceasefire. And I got up from the White House, them tooting their own horn about how great this is. They ended the 12-day war. He wants to call this the 12-day war because Israel had a 6-day war.
Right.
Now they have a ceasefire. He says that he's obliterated, quote unquote, their Iran's nuclear uh, uh, program. What do you say?
Well, I think it was twice as good as the 6 Day War, the 12-Day War was. And I think Trump has achieved world peace, and Trump should have a Nobel Peace Prize. They'll never give it to him because they're liberal bastards. But what Trump did was he ensured that there will not be a nuclear weapon produced from those sites in Iran. He decimated their nuclear program. And that's all talk and no action presidents of the United States, from your favorite president, Bill Clinton, to George W. Bush, to Barack Hussein Obama, to Joe Biden. They said Iran can't do this and Iran can't do that. Trump said, we have destroyed their nuclear capabilities. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And probably one of the greatest social media posts in human history. He has ended the threat of Iran's nuclear campaign because, as you know, Michael, the Ayatollah has said that if they get a nuclear weapon, they will use it against Israel. Israel is the great Satan. The United States is also the great Satan. And it is a theocratic command from Ayatollah Khomeini to destroy Israel. This is not only about the self-defense and the right of preservation and the right of Israel to exist, but it's also about the right of the free world to have peace. And I think Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize for what he's done.
Right. It's definitely a great achievement. However, I think he's going to regret the bluster with which he claimed all of this. One, Israel's had a lot of ceasefires with a lot of their enemies. In fact, there was a ceasefire on October 7, 2023, at the beginning of the day between Israel and Hamas, and that didn't work out so well. None of the previous ceasefires have held. Number two, he says it's been obliterated. That that remains to be seen. He's very upset that the New York Times and all of his media enemies have published a Defense Intelligence Agency report that stated that in fact it only set him back a few months. Nobody knows. The thing was deep underground. Our bombs are pretty significant. It's hard to know how much of it he destroyed. I if anything, it wasn't primarily anything the U.S. did. We came in as we're like the closer. We're like who's a great closer? Like Mariano Rivera. We came in and in the ninth inning, but it took a great pitching effort by Israel to get it there. So it's
They
primarily
were
what
like
Israel did.
Sandy Koufax, the greatest Jew to ever play baseball.
Right. So this talks about there's a report from CBS that there were 16 trucks at Fort Owl, which is the apparently the main nuclear facility, well before the bombs dropped, and they may have been removing the nuclear uh, weapons. There's no radiation, so I don't know. How do you destroy a nuclear facility and have no radiation? I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna downplay completely his achievement, but yeah, it's a big deal. But I'm not buying how significant it is that all of these claims he's making.
I'm going to give you 2 points on rebuttal here. One is just a media point. The same people that were talking about the Hunter Biden laptop wasn't real, especially one of the women at the New York Times, the reporter, is the one saying that Trump didn't destroy the nuclear capability. So, look at your
Well,
source.
it's the DIA. It's the DIA
Yeah,
that's
but,
saying.
they had all these intelligence people signing off saying it wasn't Russian disinformation. It was Russian
Right,
disinformation.
former
But it was.
intelligence.
They
No,
discredited sources.
Levitt acknowledged that the report is real. What Levitt has said is this is a report that's been countered, and they gave you a one-sided report, and there's other reports.
Opinions
What
are
I'm
like assholes. Everybody has them, and they all stink. And so this one
Right.
stunk.
Well, DIA is supposed to be doing this stuff, but be that as it may, what I'm saying is nobody actually knows exactly how
No,
badly.
I'll tell you what we do know. We do know is that you said Fordo, that road to Fordo, and there was activity the few days before. And then one of the beliefs, and I think it's probably true, is that they moved a lot of the enriched uranium out of the facility, and it's still in Iran. There's still enriched uranium. The problem is that for Iran is that they cannot refine it any further. It's not weapons grade. Even if they still have the uranium, it can't be put into a weapon, because what they have to do is the two facilities that we hit with the submarines are the places where they do kind of like the races. They turn the uranium into gas, and then they move the gas across the chamber in order to distill it.
So let's say
they can't do that
those.
anymore. There's no
Right, no,
possibility.
well, hold on. So let's say they destroyed them. You don't think that they can rebuild in another spot? That what they don't
Well,
have blueprints?
they could try to rebuild, yes, but it takes a lot of different things. You have to get the people in place. That Israel killed all the people that could help
Right.
them rebuild.
All right.
Correct.
Well, yeah,
But then
that's
it's going to
true.
be it's going to be we have the best satellite imagery in the world, and you said it before, and I agree that Mossad has the best intelligence in the world, even embedded intelligence in Iran. So if they build any new facility, they're going to know about it. So there's a lot of issues, there's hurdles here. We're talking everybody has to agree. If it's minimum months, we're talking 6 to 9 months before they can put that facility where they can continue to enrich. But I think it's years. The way that Trump is talking, this is totally depleted. And given the countermeasures that Israel
That's
and the
the way he's talking. The way he's talking. I'm not buying.
And I believe every word that Trump says. He's got no reason to lie.
Yeah. All right. He's got no reason to lie. All right. So we have a segment we should have kept Paul on called Paul Got Screwed. And as we said, Paul, oh, you know what? I screwed up one thing. Hold on. As we said, Paul made some jokes in a joking way. And by the way, on the site, he it's got like all the case law that he cites for why he can say what he said. You can't have a true threat when you're also citing case law. Obviously, you're not really threatening anyone. You're showing the limits of what you can go for, and everyone should see that. But this is let me read this. Here we go. The vice mayor of Kudahi, a city in southeast LA County, so it's probably near LA, is under FBI investigation after she allegedly posted this video. Let's listen to the video, and then we will debate whether or not you would charge her.
For nothing, but I want to know where all the cholos are at in Los Angeles. 18th Street, Florencia. Where's the leadership at? Because you guys are all about territory, and this is 18th Street, and this is Florencia. You guys tag everything up, claiming hood. And now that your hood's being invaded by the biggest gang there is, there ain't a peep out of you. It's everyone else who's not about the gang life that's out there protesting and speaking up. We're out there like fighting our turf, protecting our people. And like, where you at? Bien calladitos, todos los chulitos. I'm like, dude, they're running amok all up in your...
All right, what do you think?
Well, here's the issue. She is openly, and it's free speech. I understand she has a right to free speech and political speech, but at a certain point, it crosses the line from speech to incitement and almost concerted action liability with a terrorist or a criminal organization. She acknowledges that these organizations, these street gangs, are criminal organizations. The United States federal government prosecutes them all day long, the Bloods and the Crips and all the Mexican gangs and MS-13. So that is who she's talking to. She's talking to known criminal organizations, and she's inciting known criminal organizations. I think this is on the line of where we can have concerted action liability. I think it's right for them to investigate her. I don't think it's right to charge her for that speech at this point, but I think that's a fundamental basis for an investigation. It's a good foundation in the sense that these are known, identified, historical criminal organizations, and she's talking to them and telling them and directing them and imploring them to do something. You know, if Mike Bolton were to call up a mob chieftain and start asking him, you know, you should go do this, this, and this, because in Cook County they're not paying attention to these warehouses or this thing or this, that, then it's kind of the same type of situation. You know, I think that she's getting in a very perilous waters. I defend her right to speech. I defend her right to say that, but I think she's on a hairline trigger away from concerted action liability.
I'm basically where you're at. This is close, but I still wouldn't charge her because I don't know. She's comparing. She's saying everybody else is protecting their territory. So there's a lot of ways that you can like you can interpret that, and she uses like very vague terms like protect your territory. She's not quite. I think if you got a true threat, it's got to be very explicit, and protect your territory can be viewed a bunch of different ways. So I wouldn't charge her though. I would vote against her for sure.
I'll give you a hypothetical, and this is a case that actually happened. I think it was North Carolina in like 2008, where they got a guy for terrorism. He was Middle Eastern born. He was a student on here on the student visa, and he went on the internet and said, if you're going to be a martyr, if you're going to be a suicide bomber, you're very, very stupid. Don't be a suicide bomber. Use an RV, a remote control vehicle to deliver the payload. And he had a whole video as to how you could have a payload, make a payload, and deliver it to a crowded area without being a martyr. That's what this guy's video is. And he did probably 15 years in federal prison. I think he supported back to Egypt. That crosses the line. She didn't tell people specific ways and plans and how to do things. She just said in kind of very amorphous terms. You watch your territory.
Look, protect your territory. Protect your territory can mean that you show up. So it's complete. I'd say a lot different than
show up is a right to assembly, and she has that to fall back on. But I'm telling you, she would have to talk about very specific planning and kind of go into what the planning should be and things like that. That's what it has to. Those are the cases that they've been able to prosecute just for speech. This guy did a speech on a YouTube video, and he didn't do anything other than tell people what to do. And he still was convicted for 15 years for terrorism. But those are
but no, he's saying don't be a suicide bomber, do this, and then go step by step what you do. If she said, here's how you assemble a
fortify this corner, put up a sniper post here, do this, do that, that becomes the different story. If she starts going to practical, how to defend the neighborhood,
Right. She didn't do that. All right. Sean Combs, we've been following this trial. He's charged with racketeering, conspiracy, I think a couple of counts of sex trafficking, a couple of counts of transporting prostitutes. I think he's facing 5 counts total. The big news is his defense team isn't putting on any witnesses, barely spoke. We're going straight to the closing arguments and then jury deliberations. I'm going to give you, if I'm on the jury, based on what I have heard so far, what I would find him guilty of, and I'll tell you why. 1 count of sex trafficking, however many counts of transporting a prostitute, I would acquit him on the racketeering conspiracy. The reason being, given that the defense showed that the prosecution suborned perjury, I would dismiss most of the evidence. However, he's on tape meeting the elements of 1 count of sex trafficking. So I find him guilty on that. I think the evidence that he paid and transported prostitutes is pretty overwhelming. So I find him guilty on that. I would give 5 to 10 years. I think this trial was hyped, and they mostly showed Sean Combs is a really bad guy. The sex trafficking, I don't want to minimize it, but they showed definitively sex trafficking through 1 audio tape. I didn't see any kind of evidence of a conspiracy to sex traffic. I didn't see any kind of organization. I'm not finding the racketeering conspiracy. I think that Combs is from the hood. His dad was a drug trafficker. He is a criminal. So if things don't go his way or he can't convince you to do something one way, he's certainly not above committing a crime. But I didn't see an organized criminal enterprise, which is what you need for a racketeering conspiracy. Your thoughts?
We talked about it last week a little bit. If you want to make this into the OJ trial, OJ in the prosecution, it lasted 6 months. Mm-hmm. And the defense, which didn't put OJ on the stand and basically had 2 arguments. One that Diddy's making, they didn't make their case. And 2 that Diddy's making is they tampered with evidence, and nothing that they have there can be trusted. They added a 2A in OJ, that Mark Fuhrman was racist and the whole LAPD was racist. They didn't really get into racism so big in this case, but the 6 months in the OJ trial for the prosecution, 6 weeks for the Diddy prosecution, 2 months for the OJ defense to make those 2.5 points, 2 hours for Diddy to try to make those points in his defense. I think he's going to lose on that alone, because you have the jury that's standing there. They've gotten all this evidence from the people. They have it slanted their way. All they saw was the cross-examination by the defense attorneys. They didn't have a presentation. At least in OJ, they had like Barry Scheck, and they had all these other people that they brought up to talk about different things and try to inform the jury about different things. They should have put a dog and pony show together that lasted at least a week or two for the jury's benefit. I think your analysis is pretty much on about the claims where he's going to be.
No,
other than I disagree. I disagree about racketeering. I think they got him on racketeering. I think they got him on racketeering because they show that his enterprise was in part based on criminal activity, and that's all they kind of really need to show. They got to show that it's a criminal enterprise, and there's a substantial part of it that is bolstered by criminal activity. I think that they'll be able to show that for what they had in the trial. I think Diddy's looking at the rest of his life in prison.
All right, I didn't realize this. This is in the 2016 hotel security video. That's where he's beating up Cassie. She said, Cassie, that is, was taken while she was trying to flee a sexual performance that had turned violent.
Yeah.
So if you believe her, that amounts to sex trafficking. However, the defense showed that she lied. So I would still dismiss it. I don't know. I don't know what she was doing, and I don't believe her. She lied once. I would still go with 1, but that's actually, if you believe her testimony, that meets the elements of sex trafficking.
But that does 2 things, Mike. It does two points. The first point is that it talks about the enterprise. This is how Diddy operated. These freakouts were kind of marketing gimmicks for him. He got all sorts of people. He's rubbing circles, doing business because of these freakouts, and they were in large part criminal enterprises, every little one of them. The second part, and you said it before, Diddy didn't speak. He spoke through his audio tape. He can't cross-examine an audio tape. His only voice in this trial are audio tapes where I believe that he may have been taken a bit out of context. I don't think that cross-examination could have fixed it to the point that Diddy would be satisfied, or his defense team would be satisfied. And the fact of the matter is, he believes that they were doctored, but we have nobody there to say that. We don't have Diddy there to say, these are doctored. I didn't say things that way. This is not what would happen. But if he does that, he opens himself up to cross, and that, in a very big way, could be devastating. They haven't devised a way. These lawyers are not that bright in that they haven't devised a way to put on some type of case that at least that could, like the way with Barry Scheck, the way that Johnny Cochran was a genius in that case, Bob Shapiro, Mark Garrett, they were geniuses in how they really did nothing. What they did in this case in 2 hours, they made it to 2 months. And so they sold the jury every day, and they were eating out of the palm of Johnny Cochran's hand. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. When Johnny Cochran had the black ski mask to pull over, this all came in the defense case. The great moments of performance by Johnny Cochran came in the 2 months of rebuttal, and they have none of it here. These guys suck, in plain English.
They don't suck completely, because they did show that the prosecutors suborned.
OJ walked out of that courtroom. Diddy's not walking out of the courtroom.
No, I know. Well, but they don't suck completely. If you can,
you can't be a little pregnant. You're pregnant.
I know. Well, look, they're facing a lot of evidence, but if you can show that prosecutors suborned perjury, you did a pretty good job. All right, we'll see what happens. If it's me, but I think they hate him, so they'll convict him. And there's a really fine line, because obviously Diddy likes to commit crimes. So is that a criminal enterprise? It depends on who the juror is. And I can guarantee you, other jurors will say, he extorts, he puts guns to people's heads, he beats people up, he just constantly is committing crimes. He's a criminal enterprise.
That's what John Gotti did for years. Come on.
Yeah, but Gotti was part of the Gambino crime families.
And he's part of the Diddy crime family. It's no different. The Bloods and Crips do that. The RICO organization, and the 13's a RICO organization. You have all sorts of things that are RICO organizations.
All right, so
organization.
All right, yesterday, into the evening, we'll say, they had the New York City mayoral primary, Now, the current mayor wasn't a part of the primary because he's going to run as an independent, but the socialist, who I think is like 33 and has been
33-year-old assemblyman.
right.
Zoran
And he only recently, there he is, Zoran.
Montami.
He was really happy on October 7th and 8th of 2023. He's a socialist. I think he said he wants to end prisons. Does he have a shot at beating Adams?
Well, we'll see what happens here because this is going to be a bellwether election. I think that if Cuomo would have won, Cuomo would have been the mayor of the city of New York. But I think that Mandrami, the Zoran, is too far to the left. He's the AOC Bernie Sanders standard bearer in New York City. He's actually AOC was the first one to get behind him, and I think he goes too far left for regular Democrats. We're talking the classical Democratic coalition of the lunch pail blue collar workers, of municipal and state public servants, of the black community, of the brown community. I think that he's going to be too far to the left. Now, look who they have. They have Eric Adams running as an independent. And this is a formula for winning because look at Michael Bloomberg. Bloomberg ran as an independent several times and won. And the key is to be financed, have name recognition, and have a coalition. I think that all of the Cuomo people that are regular Democrats are going to be coming back hat in hand, they haven't already, to Eric Adams and the black community, the brown community. A lot of the classic Democrats are going to be voting independent this year. I think Eric Adams is going to be the candidate. He'll be the fusion independent candidate. Democrats will vote on the independent line for him. The progressives will vote for Zadrami, and Curtis Lewa, the Guardian Angels founder, running on the Republican ticket, will get a bunch of the people. But I think that it's enough for Adams to win. Adams is going to win this one. That's my back of the napkin numbers the day after the primary. I think Eric Adams is going to win. And the fact is, he's got big support from super PACs, national super PACs, from Trump people too, from independent and Republican PACs. In order to keep the immigration enforcement, the picture was there of Tom Homan. That's the most important thing to the administration. Trump's fingerprints are all over this one because he's behind Curtis Lewa, but I think he's bigger behind Eric Adams because it's better with the devil that you know and the ability to do the immigration enforcement and everything else.
Right. So what we have is a guy who's only not in jail because he made a deal with President Trump against an avowed socialist, anti-American Muslim. Is that one of those two? Sliwa's not going to win. So one of those two people is going to be mayor. Am I right?
I think Eric Adams will be the mayor. Yeah.
Eric Adams, who should be in jail, except he made a corrupt bargain with President Trump.
Well, the Democrats said the same thing about Trump. He should be in jail. So it is what it is.
Right. Okay. Well,
politics makes strange bedfellows, Mr. Volpe. That's how it is.
Mm-hmm. All right. I guess.